Yes, champions, welcome to the show. This is the Lights Out Performance Podcast, the podcast for you if you're a white collar boxer. Here we're going to discuss everything from training, nutrition, mindset, anything that is going to help improve your performance. We will discuss it here. So today is all going to be about mindset for boxing, how to best optimize your mindset so you can get the most out of yourself when you are in the ring. Because I know a lot of fighters really struggle with overcoming anxiety, especially if this is in the run up into your first fight. You might find that you are really struggling to deal with the kind of pre-fight anxiety, pre-fight nerves, because fighting is an emotional roller coaster. There's so much that goes on mentally, physically, just everything. So today we're really going to delve into that. The things that really helped me throughout my career. Mental resilience is so important for boxing. Don't get me wrong, I think mental resilience is very important in all aspects of life, but very much so in boxing. If anything, it is just as important as being strong, as being fit, because when you're in there in the ring, if you lose it, you like mentally, if you start, getting really down on yourself, or you start to bottle it, as they say, that's it, it's game over. So having strong mental resilience and being mentally strong and mentally tough is fundamental. You can never underestimate the power of the mind, especially in combat sports, because it makes you do wild things. Honestly, it's pretty crazy. My old boxing coach, Peter Simon, he used to always talk about the psychology of boxing. There's so much more to boxing than just the physical. You hit him, he hits you, and you dance around. Yes, being fit and being strong is one aspect of it, but like I said, there is a psychology to fighting. And by that, I mean things like having that poker face. Even if you get hit, you never want to show that you're hurt, because as soon as you do that, that's going to help elevate your opponent's self-confidence. And then also, if your opponent bangs you with an absolute huge shot, and then you just kind of sit there and laugh at him, you give him a little grin and just like, let's go, baby. Again, from a psychological standpoint, he might be sitting there being like, wow, I've just hit this guy with an absolute peach of a shot and it's not even bothered him. And it's those little things that really start to play with people mentally. And then that's what my old coach, Pete Simon, used to always say, was there's that psychology of boxing. It's just as mental as it is physical. And it was like what Mike Tyson was infamous for, was that he would break a lot of his opponents before they'd even get into the ring. They'd be so scared of him, they wouldn't be able to perform because they'd just be on edge. And that's it. So one thing you need to start trying to do, if you do struggle with this, is start utilizing some of the tactics we're going to discuss today to start improving your mental strength and your mental resilience. Because again, it's at that age I was saying, you got to fake it till you make it. Even if you don't really deep down believe that you are the best or whatever, you just got to tell yourself you are. You got to just drill it into your subconscious to the point when you are almost just like, fuck it, I just am. I'm just gonna destroy it. You see, with all the professionals, no professional goes into a fight, no matter what the odds are, and however incredible his opponent is, no boxer goes into a fight thinking they're gonna lose. And that is just part of a very good coaching, again, training your mind, and also be training your body so that you know that physically you can achieve anything. Because not cutting corners when you are training, honestly, it leads to this incredible amount of self-belief. There's like an age old saying, it's how you do anything, it's how you do everything. So when you start cutting corners there, you start cutting corners everywhere. So by the time you get into the ring, you know, if you've been missing sessions consistently, that's hours upon hours of sparring you've missed, of drills that you've missed, of skill training that you've missed, of pad work, like all of that. And that adds up. So one of the biggest things that you can do if you are struggling from a mindset standpoint is just dedicate yourself to your training. Because honestly, I used to love it. Like I was a bit anal and neurotic about how much I trained, and I would, as all my coach would say, I would happily overtrain. I was always the fittest guy in the gym, and this is one thing that I always did. And honestly, the feeling when you'd walk down to the ring, like when the curtains opened and you could hear your tune playing, you could hear all the fans cheering your name. that walk down to the ring, knowing that you'd left no stone unturned, and it just gave me this massive vamp of confidence, and it just made me feel incredible. Just being like, I don't care what this guy brings. I've got something for anything this guy thinks he can throw at me. I'm gonna fucking take it, and I'm here for it. I am here for it. Yeah, and that feeling before you go into war is just, yeah, like I said, you can't beat it. So again, one of the biggest things I would say to you is make sure that you train hard, make sure you listen to your coaches, make sure that you don't skip out on sessions, you don't skip out and start missing training sessions, miss your own cardio. If you're meant to be going out for your runs and stuff, go and do that. Do your road work. Again, make sure you listen to my other podcasts on road work to make sure that if you are going out there and doing your road work, you're doing the right sort of stuff. Because yes, I know a lot of coaches' hearts are in the right place, but doesn't mean they necessarily know the best things for you. Because yeah, I know a lot of coaches still just be like, yeah, just go and run a bit further, it'll get you fitter. And that's not necessarily the case, especially not for white collar boxing, because we're sprinters. We are sprinters, as I've said many times before. Come around to mental toughness. Mental toughness works for you inside and outside of the ring. So kind of similar to what I touched on there, where having your opponent smash you with a shot, and then by you just kind of grimacing and just be like, that can then play on his mind. He's like, I can't beat this guy. I can't beat this guy. I had two really good fights with a bloke named John Hefford. And the first one was for the English title, and I knocked him out in the fourth round. And then there was loads of chat back and forth in all the build up. All his mates were getting involved in it, all over like Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. Like, yeah, it was chaos. It was really good actually. It was really good build up, really good hype for the fight. And then the second fight, it was the same. My style was very much like Ricky Hatton. I would just be walking down, get on the inside, rip shots to the body, come over the head, switch the angle. That was very much my style. It was very much inside fighting. And he's a bit taller than me, so we like to try and keep it at range. And so I just negated that the whole time. And it got to the point when he was like throwing shot, and anything he hit me with, I just kind of just wearing it coming through. And there was a point in the fight, and he puts his hands down, and he just goes, like screams at me because he was getting so frustrated because nothing he could do would stop me. And I was just on him the whole time. Again, that's why having good fitness does win fights, especially in those fights, because as soon as your opponent starts to gas out, and if you have the fitness to be able to keep pushing the fight, keep just working, because then your opponent's fighting your fight, and it makes it a very, very difficult position for him to be in. So yeah, that is the mindset works inside and outside of the ring. So that's one thing you need to think about as well. And I remember I fought a guy called Steve Gale down in Aldershot. First round, I was super overtrained. So I did a fight 2 weeks before this, did a full training camp for that fight. Knocked the guy out in the first round, was on this massive high, and then my coach obviously didn't really understand much in the way of like recovery or anything. We trained every single day, twice a day some of those days, all the way up until this next fight. And yeah, this is the only time in my life I've been overtrained to that point when it was like I had nothing in me, absolutely nothing. Even like the week leading up to the fight, I couldn't really sleep properly. I remember being in the change room and all I wanted to do is sleep. I was just lying down on the benches, and the only thing that kind of got me up and got me kind of going was knowing that some guy was going to punch me in the face. And I was just, I wasn't all there. Honestly, I was just like a bit like I'm totally zoned out, like totally monged out. It was it was the weirdest position to be in. I remember even walking out to the ring being like, could really just do with a nap right now. It was crazy. Anyway, so I'm coming out and I just walked onto this stupid hook. Just stayed in the pocket of him. This guy was a little pit bull, and I just walked onto this brutal hook, dropped me, and I don't even know how I woke up. I did a full Tyson Fury, literally head bounced off the canvas, and I was just like zombies, just a zombie raising for the dead. Like got back up, and I was like, okay, managed to get through the fight. And then from a mental resilience standpoint, after taking a shot like that, it took me a little bit to kind of get my legs under me. But my coach was like, just stay behind your jab, just box him, you can outbox him. And then that was literally what I did for most of the fight. I just boxed him, just stay behind my jab, didn't really take any other shots there. And I won all the rounds apart from the first. And then went into the final round, and again, just from a mindset standpoint, I was like, I've got to knock him out, otherwise I'm not going to win. Because obviously he was the home fighter as well, and he was the champion. I was like, oh no, he's good, and I walked into a stupid hook in the final round as well. So I got knocked down twice. I still made the final bell, but I got knocked down twice. And if I didn't get knocked down that second time, I would have won on points. Should have won on points because I would have won every other round. But again, it's just that mental resilience, and that's why it's like a coach is fundamental as well, because sometimes it's good to have someone there that you know, you trust, that can also talk to you in that real, just kind of down to earth manner that I think you need when you're in a fight. You know, because sometimes it's just, well, you know, when you've been in there, it's just like being in the war zone sometimes. When you have one of those fights when it's like that, if you've been dropped, your head's a bit all over the place. One of the biggest things that you can do is don't then be like, oh, I'm getting beat up. Like, don't start getting in on yourself in those situations, because you're only going to make your fight, you're going to make that night so much harder for you. Just sometimes you just got to suck it up, and then it's just trying to rectify it from there. And then don't do what I did, which is then be like, fuck it, let's just try to knock him out. Because again, you're just going to open yourself up. Like they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool you twice, you're going to lose a fight, mate. So mental resilience works inside and outside of the ring. We're going to give you some techniques today to work on the mental resilience to help you outside of actual fight night. So that when you do come into the ring, it's going to help you believe in yourself a little bit more and overcome any anxieties, or not even help you like overcome them, just help you manage them. Because I don't care who you are, what level of boxing you're at, you're always going to have those kind of pre-fight anxiety. It's just one of those things. It's exactly like the kind of Mike Tyson documentary, and that's what he used to say. He's like, he'd be walking to the ring and he would just be like, I don't know why I'm doing this, I'm scared, this guy's going to kill me. And he'd have all these like really negative thoughts and this really negative internal monologue going on. And they said he'd get into the ring, he'd hear that bell, and he'd like, it would change, and he'd just turn into an absolute beast that he was. So yeah, no matter who you are, no matter where you're at, everybody has the feelings. And that's the one thing that did always help me as well, was knowing that like I'm feeling this, but like I know my opponent's feeling this as well. So yeah, you're not alone. Again, if you do fight build up with your promotions, that's when you just got to act cocksure and just be like, I'm just going to smash your face in, mate. Because yeah, you are scared, but you don't want to show your opponent that you're scared, because again, you don't want it to give him any form of confidence to latch onto. This is literally just like poker. You want to keep any emotion hidden, and the only emotion that you ever want to exude is confidence. Just show that. Be like, I am going to smash your face in, mate. I don't care who you are, what you've done. When we get into that ring, I'm going to take your teeth out. And that's what you just have to believe the whole time. That is literally it. Just keep telling yourself that over and over again. It's literally like affirmations. Similar to like old Muhammad Ali. That was literally what he used to say. He goes, I'm the champion. So before he ever fought like George Foreman, name those for the titles, that was literally what he used to run around screaming. Like, I am the champion. I am the champion. It's like, you're just holding my belt, but I'm going to beat you. I am the champion. And it's like, you just say it so much that you almost just start to believe it. That's kind of what you need to do. That is just kind of what you need to do. And I think this also helps not only for boxing, but it's so positive for all aspects of your life. Like, never just letting those fears and anxieties overcome you. Just fucking suppress that shit. Like, take it wrong, I know there's like lots of like women listening to this, and this isn't like a sexist comment as such, but as a man, that's just one thing you've got to do. You've just got to, any anxiety, any fears you have, suppress that. Push that down into your stomach, and then you tell yourself, we are warriors. Especially guys who are looking at white collar fights. That is you. You're a warrior. You just need to tell yourself you're a champion. We all have fears. We all have anxieties. We all have that. But you just suppress that and you fight through. You make the world believe that you are a dominant force. That is it. That is it. Don't get sucked up into this little snowflake world that we're in now and be super emotional all the time. No. There's a time and a place for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like mention crime. I don't believe any of that rubbish. But you still have to be a man. Feel free to cry, but just don't be a snowflake. Anyway, right. Let's go back to the Let's get back to it. We took a little bit of a diversion there. Anyway, pre-fight rituals are always a big one for this. I know certain fighters, some of my friends who have just will only ever wear the same boxer shorts. They have specific things that they eat. They have specific rituals they'll do, whether that be praying, whether that be breathing techniques. There's 1,001 things, and the thing with this is it's very, very unique. Whatever you feel is best for you, that's what you need to do. So I used to love going to the swimming pool. Morning of my fight, I'd go to the swimming pool really early and I used to stretch in the swimming pool. I wouldn't obviously do much. I'd stretch and I'd just do a light little shadow box. I used to play certain music again, just gets you in the mood. Music is known to be an ergogenic aid, which helps boost performance. So by all means use that. But the thing with pre-fight rituals is hard for me to say what to do because these are all very, very unique to the fighter. These are all very unique to the person. So you just got to do whatever brings you comfort, brings you confidence. Do that. Whether that's having certain people around you, whether that's, like I say, eating certain foods, listening to certain music, wearing certain items of clothing. Do you. You just do you. But find whatever it is that helps you and just stick to it. Just stick to it and just try to make sure it's not too awkward. Like if you genuinely become that attached to it, but it really puts people out, then you're really going to struggle. Like, oh, I have to sleep in this very specific room, in this specific bed with a specific pillow. Be like, what if you're in a different country per se? At least if you are going to have your little rituals and stuff, just try and make sure it's not too anal or not too difficult because yeah, you're only making your life harder because if you feel if you don't partake in this said ritual that your whole performance is gonna fall down, then yeah, you're just making your life a bit more difficult, aren't you? A couple of things I did used to do, which I also really helped, was I'd get wrapped up straight away, go out, go and speak to everyone. I used to like going around, just feeling the vibe in the arena, like going around just chatting to people. Obviously, be getting like pictures and stuff with people, and it used to just calm me down. Obviously, a lot of time, especially in like my white collar days, I'd always be headlining, so I wouldn't be fighting till 10:30. So I'd like to get in there like about 7ish, go and just speak to people, just chill, take it easy. And then I'd go in, sit with my stable. So there might be a few of the other boys on the shows. And I started just breathing. I'd just literally go and box breathe. So a 5 second inhale, hold for 5 seconds, 5 second exhale. I'd do that for a few minutes. And then as I was doing that, I would then just visualize, literally just sit there. I would close my eyes and just visualize, right, so I know he likes to throw that jab, he likes to throw that 1-2. And I just work on that little parry, slip back, boom. And I'd literally visualize very just specific moments. Literally be there in my head, just visualizing me slipping, visualizing me moving, visualizing me getting inside, and I just drill all the stuff that we've been working on in camps. I would literally just sit down there for like 10, 15 minutes and I'd visualize that. And I used to feel that would really start getting me in the mood. Because realistically, your body doesn't really know the difference between something actually happening and then you visualizing something actually happening, which is why when you watch a horror film, people get scared, their heart rate races, things like that, or you have a nightmare, like your heart rate goes, all that same sort of thing. And that's the thing with visualization, it's the same. If you just keep drilling that same thing, it's still a form of practice. So visualize as much as you can. Shadowboxing things as much as you can. And when you're shadowboxing, visualize. So imagine as you are shadowboxing, you're not just throwing your punches out for the sake of throwing a punch out. Think about someone throwing punches and you're slipping, you're countering, you're then moving off. So when you are doing things, make sure there's a reason for it. And that's what I used to like with visualization. I used to just do it loads, especially when I first started out. I would just be sitting there on the couch and I'd just close my eyes and I'd just literally fight people in my head. As weird as that sounds, I just shadowbox loads. And I feel like that really, really helped me and it made me a lot sharper with a lot of my counters. So yeah, definitely visualization and breathing techniques I also thought were fundamental to my kind of success, especially in my white collar days. I used to literally love it. And that was part of my pre-fight ritual. It's like it's kind of a tough one, and it's goal setting. And it's visualizing your success. It's good to have a goal and it's good to have a drive. I always say, if you're coming to your first fight, one of the biggest things is don't become emotionally attached. I know this is hard and nigh impossible, but don't become too emotionally attached to the result. So if you win that fight, obviously fantastic, well done you. But again, if you lose that fight, don't get down on yourself and be like, oh, I'm shit, da, 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 da. Because I would always say book in another fight. If you lose your first fight, at least have two, because the difference that you will notice between your performance between your first fight and your second fight and your third fight, those first few fights, the difference in your ability, it's just astronomical. Because like your first fight is wild, it's a roller coaster. There's so much for you to try and understand, to take in. You'll be so gassed up by the time you've thrown about two punches in the ring, because it's an emotional roller coaster. That thing about having a fight day is it's always in the back of your head. I could always do more. I could always do this. That's always going in your mind. So no matter what, it's a very difficult position to be in from an emotional standpoint, because you are consistently stressing about it. It will just it always comes up in your mind. It's always going on, and everyone's always asking, "Oh, how you feeling?" You're like, "Yeah," and again, fake it till you make it. You always should be just being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna smash the guy. I'm gonna feel like that." That's what I do anyway. But it's just always you always have this just like niggling feeling in the back of your head, this anxiety, this stress, this whatever, just there constantly just grinding away at you. So yeah, I would always say if you do lose your first fight, don't get down on yourself. Book another fight in, but then also try and learn from your losses. Fear of failure is one of the biggest things, and I think if you've taken a white collar fight, honestly, power to you, because I think it's one of the scariest things that you can do. Pitting yourself against one other bloke or lady in a ring in front of all your friends and Dan, like that's a fucking ballsy thing to do. So honestly, all I can say to you for doing that, or even just to any boxers, you're special. Like I think honestly, fighters are special. And this also goes to all forms of combat sports when it's just one on one. It's fucking mental. It's a crazy thing to do. When you actually think about it, logically, it's nuts, isn't it? But I think for you to have the self confidence, the self esteem to just put your name down and sign up for something like that, I think honestly, it's an incredible feat, and you will learn a lot about yourself throughout the training, throughout the fight. And again, never, no matter what the result is, especially if it's only your first fight, don't let that get you down if you don't win, because again, you're fighting someone else. They've dedicated themselves to this as much as you have, and the whole idea of boxing is you're coming into 50-50 fights, and that's a big one. That is a very big um it's a very, very big thing to do, and it's a brave thing to do. So yeah, hats off to you for being that person that is going in there and doing that. Like, power to you massively. So when it comes to losses, it's part of the game. You don't see footballers quitting football because they've lost a game. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. You have to just take it. It's one athlete against another athlete, and the only difference is it's a one-on-one thing here. So yeah, it's not like a striker goes one-on-one with a defender or a goalkeeper and loses the ball or gets beat, and he's like, "Fuck this! I'm hanging my boots up. I'm sacking this off." No, it's a sport. That's why we're there, and you're there to learn. Especially if you give up after your first fight, you've not really learned anything, because it's only your first fight, and there's so much. You're literally like at the very, very bottom that you can be. So yeah, don't let that get in the way. And it's like that famous Rocky quote. It's not about how high you get, it's about how you respond to when you get hit. When you get hit, what do? You're gonna stay down, you're gonna cry, you're gonna moan about it, and just like, or you're gonna get up, dust yourself off, and come back stronger. That's that kind of same preface that you have to take here. Like, and mine was the same. I went to 16-0 in my first 16 fights. I was just blitzing everybody. I was doing really, really well, and that's obviously where the Monaco Lights Out came from. If any of you have seen my Instagram, see I've got like a great little highlight reel. I remember losing my first fight to a chap called Gareth Gardner. And I really struggled to deal with that, to overcome that defeat. I was almost kind of known as the undefeated boxer, and all my friends knew me as that, and they loved me. It was just one of those, and I built up in my head, and I was like, "That's me. I'm just this guy." And then I remember, and I felt like my world fell apart, and it was emotionally, it was really, really difficult for me to say, just because I don't know, I'd built this whole thing up into my mind, and it was almost my identity was falling away from me, which, looking back and thinking about it, it's just fucking stupid. Yeah, don't get me wrong, no one really wants you to lose, but at the same time, as I said, it's part and parcel of it. Bear in mind, this was my 16th fight. Yeah, he's about 10 years older than me. Boxed for England, GB, and I have like 120 fights, and that was my 16th. He was my 16th fight. So yeah, so I went 15-0. Boxed him for the British title on my 16th fight, and yeah, and he beat me. And again, even saying that, it was a very, very close fight. And as they were announcing the winners, his whole face was out here, and I was fine. And he was just pipping me on literally as I'd come in, and it was great. And then as I was moving out, I kept my hands down. He was just catching me with silly shots, and again, just scoring points. Because boxing is not about just knocking people out. Boxing is also about scoring points. And he just kept pipping me with points, and that was it. As I'd step off, but he'd just wobble me with these stupid shots that I literally just could have done that, or I would have stepped out of the pocket a bit sharper, and I would have got caught with. But that's it, and that really destroyed me. You can ask like my parents and everything. I don't know. I really struggled for a long time with that, but I just went straight back to the drawing board. I got back. I had about a week or two off, being a moany little bitch. But then after that, like, just sat down with my coach and then just picked that fight apart. My coach wasn't the best for this at that time as well, because he was like, "No, you won that fight," and I think sometimes, no, you need to hear that you didn't win that fight. Sometimes you actually need to hear that, no, you need to learn. You need to keep your hands up when you're moving out of the pocket, because you're taking stupid shots. He didn't really do that. I actually did a lot of that with my dad. Me and my dad went through loads of tapes and stuff, and learned a lot from it from there. And then, yeah, and then again, just went back kind of strength to strength, just rebuilding and going from there. Because life is a learning curve. Every single fight is a learning curve. And it's like they say about Thomas Edison. Like, he was like, "Oh no, I haven't failed like 99 times. I've just had 99 lessons on what's not worked. And boom, on a number 100, I've now got a working light bulb, and everyone loves me." So it's a similar sort of thing with what you're doing. Is, yes, don't get me wrong, you're losing a fight, whether it be because of the judges or whatever. That's a whole different ballgame. We're not going into the whole kind of politics of boxing stuff now. But what we're kind of looking at is you're pitting yourself against someone else. Again, styles. There's all different styles. There's all different types of fight. Like, you aren't going to be perfect at everything, and there's going to be certain styles that you can't do, certain this, certain that. So there's all these different things, and it's a learning process, and that is why it's good to just get out there and experience as much sparring as you can, training in all different places as well. Obviously, you need to stick to your strong little stable of coaches and that, because you don't want to just keep dotting from coach to coach. But what I mean is, you need to experience all different types of people to spar with and stuff and move around with, because that's the only way that you're going to learn how to overcome different types of fighters. So yeah, it's one of those. You don't take losses as losses. Just take them as literally learning curves, and just be like, "Oh, okay, this is what I need to do." Go through the footage and then look for areas that you're weak on, the areas that aren't optimized that you need to sharpen up on, and then that gives you a strong direction for you next go into your training, or you next go into the gym. Like, all right, let's really start drilling this. Let's really start working on this. And that's how you improve. And sometimes it takes a loss to give you the kick up the arse, to actually make you realize that, oh, actually, no, I need to really sort this out. My defense isn't that good or that optimal in this area, so I really need to get on top of this. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, I know that a lot of people bang on about the whole undefeated, but everyone should be undefeated, like with the whole Mayweather vibe and that now. But when you actually look at all of the greats, your Haglers, your Hearns, your Leonards, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, all of these guys have lost the fight. All of these guys, all the greatest fighters have lost the fight. Look at Johnny Phillips. So the Sky Sports boxing frontman, basically, Johnny Phillips. He lost his first 7 fights. It might even have been actually a few more than that, but he lost a lot of his first fights. And he even says about that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, everyone was telling me that I should give up. Everyone was telling me that I should quit, and da 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 da." But he stayed on it. He kept going, and he ended up becoming a world champion. Like, it's one of those things. You just need to keep cracking on. Like, it's, yeah, don't take a loss as the end game. Just take it as another little bump in the learning curve, and you just go from there. I kind of going in from that as well, and where I said about going back into training, one thing I would say is, don't stop training. A lot of people get into this weird thing, and they train for their camp, and they train like absolute heroes through this 8-12 week camp that they do, getting in insane physical condition, and then they have their fight, and that's it. They go out to Benidorm or wherever on holiday with the lads, and then from there it's just a downward spiral. I was guilty of this in my first few years, and I used to balloon out in weight, and I'd stop training and all this. But one of the biggest things that you can do that's going to help your performance is just staying focused in your training, staying driven year round, because you will gain so much more. Because if you only ever really properly train for that 8 weeks, and say you have 4 to 6 fights a year, literally have not even you've missed out on like a quarter of the year of just chilling, of doing nothing. And then it's also the time that you spend in camp. You spend the whole time trying to lose the fat that you've gained from living this lavish, really hedonic lifestyle. That you're not making the most out of your training, and you're not making the most out of your camp then, because your camp just turns into a fat camp. And I've got a few lads that we used to that I was in. They were in my pro stable, and they were literally they if you're listening to this, you know who you are. I'm not going to name him, but him specifically, and he'll be laughing listening to this because he is savage for it. And he literally, like, it used to blow my mind. He'd lose like 20 kilos in a camp, in an 8 week camp. He was fucking brutal at it. Like he was dedicated, but it's nuts. But imagine if he didn't have to, because he's a really good, slick boxer. But he could have just literally polished his skills to the next level and have so much more energy doing it, because all of his energy would have been spent trying to lose fat. And then he wouldn't be able to consume any real energy because he'd been in such a calorie deficit the whole time. So yeah, absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, stay focused and keep training year round. You'll get so much more for it. Your performances will just skyrocket as a result as well. Because again, you think about you're missing a couple of weeks here and there. That couple of that turns into, I don't know, 10, 12 weeks of the year. That's 3 months of the year you've already missed, just all right, like not doing anything. And obviously, yeah, we all need rest, we all need our recovery, but just try and train consistently. So even outside of fights, stay in the gyms, keep doing your boxing work, keep doing your S&C. Obviously, you just don't have to do it as intense, and you don't have to do as much of it, but still keep yourself ticking over. Don't leave it weeks and weeks and weeks, so that when you do go back to the gym, you're just a bit of a mess. Because again, it's just not worth that hassle, is it? I think the kind of last thing to really talk about is just self-belief, believing in yourself. And there's that saying about how if you don't love yourself, no one else will. And it's kind of the same with self-belief. Like if you don't believe in yourself, why should anyone else? And I know there's a million and one things that come into self-belief, but realistically, whether you have a lot of self-belief or not, it's something that you need to start trying to cultivate now. So if you don't have any self-belief, you need to start working on things like affirmations, like I said, visualization, these sort of things that are just going to help you just start feeling a bit better about yourself. And again, one of the biggest things that is going to help improve your self belief is dedication, dedicating yourself to something. And a lot of people don't have a lot of self belief because we all make these little promises to ourselves. I'm going to eat well this week. Oh, I'm going to train X amount of times. I'm going to this. I'm going to that. The issue is a lot of us are fucking rubbish at keeping these promises. And all we end up doing is breaking our promises time after time. And the issue that has is all that does is just degrade your belief in yourself. Because if you can't even hold a promise to yourself about eating in a calorie deficit for a week, starting Monday, if you can't even do something as small and simple as that, or you can't even get your steps in for the day, you can't just little those little things, by constantly breaking these promises that we make to ourselves, that is what degrades our self-belief. And again, like I was saying, when I used to go to the ring, I had so much self-belief and self-confidence because I knew I had done everything. Like I said, I was very neurotic with my training, with my diet. I was well too neurotic, if I'm honest. I was a bit extra. But that feeling of just knowing when you're jogging down to the ring, like I've left no stone, so I've done everything that I can and need to do. That feeling just gave me so much confidence, so that when I just run in there and I would just be ready for it. And you can't take away from how much of an impact that self-confidence and that self-belief has on your performance. Because it's like they say with boxers when they lose a fight and they're a bit hesitant. Look at AJ when he lost, obviously, to Ruiz and that. He was really hesitant. He was really slow. He wasn't like when you watched him against Klitschko and him letting off these beautiful combinations, moving like nicely. And he just got a bit sluggish and slow and paranoid, it almost seemed. And now he looks like he's back to his old ways again, which is great, obviously, to see. But again, mindset is a huge factor in boxing, and it can literally cripple your performance. And if you're just not doing anything, you're breaking all these little promises that you're making to yourself. That is one of those things that will cripple your performance, because you're not going to have that self-confidence or that belief in yourself that you have the ability to conquer. So when you're getting into this now, it's think about those little promises that you make to yourself, and are you staying true to them? Are you training on those days that you say you're going to go training? Are you pushing yourself when you're going training? Are you doing all those other little things that you keep saying you're going to do but you never get around to? And if you're not doing them, sort your shit out, because again, it's going to help improve you as a boxer. It's going to help improve you as a person. You're going to be a better person as a result by sticking true to those little promises and just leveling up, because again, it's all kind of part of life's journey. Yeah, there's so many philosophical analogies from combat sports that kind of thread through the whole of life. And we've kind of discussed a few of those here. One of them is just keep pushing on, no matter what. We all know life loves to just throw curveballs at you, just loves to bang you in the chin when you think you're coming up, but it just puts you back down like it's shit. It always happens. And that's one of those things there is, no matter what, you can't give up. You just need to keep soldiering on and pushing through. Same as that was it's just breaking those little promises to yourself. Stand by your word. Stand by your word, and you as a person will level up. That is a fact. Anyway, champions, this has turned out to be a bit longer than I actually anticipated, but I hope you got some really good take homes from here. If you have any questions about anything to do with anything we discussed today, feel free to just shoot me a message on Instagram, Kieran Performance. I'll put all the links and stuff below. If you want to jump onto my 12-week boxing performance program, I will link that below as well. You can get that for just £79. And champions, anything you have, any questions, anything, shoot them over. I am more than happy to have chats with all of you. Honestly, I appreciate you for giving me your time, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Bye bye.